All right, let's get into it. Texans fall to the Seahawks 27-19. Let's just be honest. That score, the score that we see right there, 27-19, that was the game was not that close. This was absolute dominance. This was incompetence at the highest level, that I've seen in covering sports in my entire career, maybe even watching sports. This was one of the most incompetent displays that I will ever see and that you will ever see. It is the Locker Room Postgame Show. I am Landry Locker. This is presented by Sleeper. Shout out to Sleeper, the best app in sports. The best game in sports is higher, lower. And shout out to Sleeper, who, by the way, like everyone else, is roasting the Texans and their offense and what they threw out there. And I got to confess something right off the top. I did not even fathom. Watch this. These are my confessions. I did not even fathom the possibility that over the bye week, with all the talk about going to the drawing board and trying to figure out what you want to do as a football team and taking the 5 games where you lost to 3 bad teams, 3 good teams, and you beat 2 bad teams, I did not fathom that what we would see tonight was the return of the left guard rotation with Laken Tomlinson after being benched, rotating with Juice Scruggs. I did not fathom that was even a possibility. If you would have told me that was a possibility, I would have bet my entire life savings. Where are my car keys? I would have thrown the car keys. I got a new iPhone. Let me throw that too. Okay? What else is valuable? Let's throw the J.J. Watt jersey in the middle of the table. The Kobe Bryant basketball. That's one of my prized possessions. Kobe Bryant basketball and the sweatband that I got as a kid. Let me throw that shit in there too. I would have bet my whole life savings and doubled it if you would have told me that over the bye week, Nick Caley and DeMeco Ryans and Cole Popovich were going to put their heads together and say, you know what? It's not that we need to get these rookies more involved. It's not that we need to get Woody Marks more involved and perhaps give him a larger chunk of the pie. We don't need to maybe work the offense through Nico Collins. You know what we need to do? We need to go back to the rotating guards that we used the couple of weeks that we got our ass whooped and that we completely abandoned the last 2 weeks. We need to go back to getting Laken Tomlinson back in the lineup. And you know what? Not only that, when it's a short yardage situation, we need to run behind him twice. We need to start Laken Tomlinson, and we need to run behind him twice. I would have bet, if you would have told me that was a possibility, I would have bet everything that I own that the Texans were going to get their ass whooped in this game. But wait, there's more. Braxton Berrios, who's been inactive all season long. Christian Kirk gets hurt. And what is the response to Christian Kirk getting hurt? They decide that Braxton Berrios is going to start out playing more offense than Jalen Knoll. And not only that, he's also going to return punts for Jalen Knoll. He is going to return punts for Jalen Knoll. So they're going to take Jalen Knoll off the field and put Braxton Berrios out there. That's crazy. That's crazy. But wait, there's more. I feel like I'm Billy Mays. But wait, there's more. You know what else we got to do? We got to get Dare Ogunbowale back in the mix on offense. I know Woody Marks has looked good. I know that Nick Chubb has looked good. We've pretty much cut and eliminated all of Dare Ogunbowale's offensive reps. But you know what? We got to get Dare Ogunbowale involved. That's what this coaching staff did today. That's what this offensive coaching staff did today. They decided that the 3 things that they were going to do post-bye week, number 1, go back to rotating left guards. Number 2, Put Braxton Berrios at punt returner and give him early on more offensive reps till Jalen Noel, till you're actually forced to put him in there, and get Dare Ogunbowale back on the field. That was what they did. I cannot fathom. I cannot fathom that was the game plan. But that's what they did. And then you factor in what else you saw with the in-game coaching with DeMeco Ryans, who we'll hear from in a second. They decided not to take a penalty on the kickoff and instead move back the extra point. At the end of the game, it's very obvious you kicked the ball out of bounds. They didn't do that. Nick Caley ran a stretch play that killed 40 seconds off the clock before that. And when they get to the goal line, they throw a few times after they decided to run twice on 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1. This was one of the worst coaching displays that you will ever see in your entire life. This is one of, like, when these guys act all arrogant and act like everything's hindsight 2020. No, the mistakes they were making were clear as day. Everybody saw this like as clear as day. Dan Orlovsky would not let David Coley or excuse me, man. I don't mean to insult David Coley. My bad. I mistaked him. I mistaked him for the wrong guy. That's an insult to David Coley. Nick Caley. Dan Orlovsky would not let Nick Caley. He would not let him babysit a Cabbage Patch doll. That's how little respect he has for Nick Caley. Nick Caley ought to be ashamed of himself for what he put out there today. He looked lost. His personnel decisions were terrible. He had no feel for the game. This was an embarrassment, an absolute embarrassment, what happened today for this Texans team. And the craziest thing is the defense somehow gave the offense chance after chance after chance after chance. And somehow this was an 8-point game. It had no business being an 8-point game. I don't even think Seattle considered the Texans to be a threat. They were throwing the ball with 5 minutes left. They were still doing their thing. They were running reverse passes when they were up 14. This was an absolute terrible display by Nick Caley and DeMeco Ryans. Don't give DeMeco Ryans a free pass. I know that I know that DeMeco's like the beloved one. He's a problem. DeMeco's a problem too. There's a problem. DeMeco's really got to look in the mirror, because whenever you hire DeMeco Ryans, the biggest knock was he's a defensive-minded head coach. The gap between the offense and the way that they function and the defense and the way that they function is awful. It's awful. And he's supposed to oversee that. This looks like a worse version of Bobby Slowick. This is a worse version of Bobby Slowick.
Damn it, Bobby.
Bobby Slowick made some mistakes. Bobby Slowick was way better than Nick Caley. Nick Caley is a lost cause at this point. And I don't know what you do to overcome that. And here's the other thing. CJ Stroud's not a complete victim of this. His surroundings aren't ideal. He throws a large amount of uncatchable balls. He's out there tripping and falling all over himself. I know on the one play, Jake Andrews stepped on his foot, but CJ's tripping and falling. He's throwing balls that aren't even catchable. There seems to be no grasp of things. Like there's nothing about this team, especially on the offensive end, that is free from criticism and is free from the bleep show that is. We might be here for a long time. I might stay up till 9, honestly. SNL's live at 9. I might stay up till 9 o'clock at this point. I got a little something in the cup. I might stay up till 9. This was just one of the absolute ridiculous, most embarrassing displays that we'll see. Got a lot of people on the super chat. Let's get a little bit of positivity here, though. We got to give some credit where credit is due. Presented by TDECU, the greatness that is TDECU. And you can go to right now might be the time to rep the Texans. If you want to be a diehard, there's a lot of people that take pride in being a diehard. Go to tdECU.org/Texans. Get that fresh new debit card. I don't know if this is something that you want to do at the moment. I would though, because you still get 15% off Texans gear, and TDECU is still one of the best in the game. They sponsor Reaction Monday, which is actually Reaction Tuesday tomorrow. Let's go to where credit is due. We gotta find some under the radar guys. We'll do the Kings of the Turf a little bit later on, but let's give some credit to some guys who actually showed up. MJ Stewart. I thought MJ Stewart actually held up decently today. MJ Stewart, he's done a good job filling in for CJ Gardner-Johnson. He had the forced fumble. He continues to be good on special teams. MJ Stewart won. Dan Orlovsky. Dan Orlovsky was basically every Texans fan's spirit animal. Dan Orlovsky was calling out Nick Caley. He was very, very frustrated. So got to give Dan Orlovsky some credit. And then Jalen Knoll. We might hear from him a little bit later on. He hangs in there and makes plays. For some reason, he's not returning punts. For some reason, he's not out there on offense. He at the end of the first half, that catch he made, and then the one he made later on, Jalen Knoll deserves a lot of credit. He's hanging in there. He's not sulking, and I got to give him a lot of credit for that. So those are the where credit is due. TDECU, your credit union, membership required, insured by NCUA. tdECU.org/Texans. So there you go with that. Let's hear from DeMeco Ryans. I'm actually interested. I haven't seen any of the quotes. I'm actually interested to hear what DeMeco Ryans has to say for himself. Furthermore, if he gets asked the questions that many of us want to hear, here is DeMeco. Oh my gosh, he looks lost. Which is appropriate for what just happened. Let's hear from old DeMeco Ryans, live from Seattle.
The red zone, not capitalizing. What do you think is the common thread of not being able to take advantage of these good opportunities?
Yeah, for us tonight, it's just overall, it was just sloppy play. There was some positive things that we did, but it was just overshadowed by the negative things. Offensively, it was not good enough. It didn't move the ball good enough. We got to execute better. The main goal in this game was to control the front. We did not do that. Their front controlled us, and it wasn't good enough for us. So we have to find a way to get better there. We got to score points, right? So we got to find a way to get in the end zone, have multiple opportunities. I just didn't capitalize on those.
You guys, what was the plan going into there? Because obviously they ran it out and were able to kind of bring a 2-minute warning.
Yeah, the plan at the end of the game was kicking the ball out of bounds so we could utilize the 2-minute and had a timeout. And we did not execute that again, just goes to the entire game.
Okay.
So,
That's unfair, Baron. Thank you very much for the transparency. He'll throw a kicker under the bus, but he won't throw anyone else under the bus. So, yeah, there's more meathead behavior right there.
Frustrating that we're not executing the things that we're coached to do.
You mentioned the lack of execution in the red zone, the mistakes. You also didn't have a lot of explosive plays. Like, how concerned are you about that, especially with Nico Collins suffering that injury?
Yeah, well, look, we want to be able to be explosive. We had some opportunities down the field. We just didn't connect on them. So we had guys open there. We just didn't connect, didn't make plays, didn't finish in the end zone. So just got to find a way to do a better job of finishing whatever the play called, executing the play. We just got to make sure we're able to score points.
With the way that you all played the last 2 games, do you feel like the offense kind of regressed tonight?
Today wasn't a good day for our entire team. Right? It's not just one side. All 3 phases did not do a great job today. We didn't play winning football, so we can't expect to come out with the win when you don't do the things that winning teams do.
Does Nico Collins remain in concussion protocol?
Yeah, right now Nico is still – he has a concussion, so we'll evaluate him as the week goes on.
The defense had some critical penalties early on. What did you make of it, and how did that affect the game early on?
Penalties always affect, especially the critical moments. It's 3rd down. They're at the end of the game. Like, we're going to get the ball back, and it's just silly penalties that We have to be a smart football team. We have to make smart decisions, and we didn't in critical times. And again, that's not winning football.
When it comes to the play on the sideline with Aziz, what did you say to him? Or what did you see?
I would have to look at the play to see what happened. I saw it as the tackle started in bounds, so I got to look at it and see why is it called.
And Christian Harris thing with the show after the Stingley play.
Yeah, I didn't see. I got to see what happened on those. But again, it's things that we control. I always look at penalties or things that we control. So we have to do a better job of controlling those and making smart decisions.
It seemed like there was a few plays, especially in the second half, where there were just free rushers. SCD on an interception, there was somebody at his feet kind of helping cause an errant throw. How do you guys just kind of get that cleaned up to pick up some of the disguised blitzes that just come fair to you guys sometimes?
Yeah, look, when we continue to have the pressures that we have until we get it picked up, it'll keep happening. So we got to do a better job of coaching it, and we got to do a better job of executing it.
Where do you stand on where this team is right now?
We are what our record says we are. So, we got another opportunity. It doesn't matter. We got another opportunity coming next week, short week. It doesn't matter. We got to flush this. We got to move on, get ready for the next one.
All right.
Appreciate it.
All right, there you go. It's DeMeco. When Bill Parcells, we are what our record says we are. Right. Very nice, DeMeco. It is the Locker Room post-game show. We'll get to the chats in a sec. Let's reset here. The Texans fall to the Seattle Seahawks. It's amazing that the game was this close. And you go back and look at some of the mistakes that DeMeco's defense made too, on top of the 4 takeaways. It's actually kind of insane that they did what they did. If you go back and look at the Aziz Al-Shire penalty, no excuse for that. The Tim Settle, I mean, what is he thinking? But even then, you'd already killed 40 seconds. Like the end of the game where you still had a puncher's chance. There's 2:50 left. You have a timeout. You have the 2-minute warning. You've already shown that you're scared to run the ball. And it's already been clear, and it should be clear over the course of the entire season that you're not going to be able to run the ball, and you're damn sure not going to be able to run stretch plays. They run a stretch play with Woody Marks, and then after it gets stopped, they're just sitting around. 40 seconds go off the clock. Now, you end up scoring, but by the time you score, there's 2:04 left. You killed 40 seconds. Then you're supposed to kick the ball out of bounds. You don't kick the ball out of bounds. It's actually kind of amazing just how many ways that this team found a way to blow this game. And this is coming off of the bye week. And you talk about the adjustments, like we've already said, and it's probably not the first time that we're going to do it, but we've already talked about the adjustments that they made. They literally decided that they were going to rotate guards. What did they see that made them think that they needed more Laken Tomlinson in their life? Like what did they see to where they thought, okay, we need to put Laken Tomlinson out there and we need to rotate guards? What happened? Like, you remember last year when we were complaining about Shaq Mason getting his starting job back after the Texans offense kind of showed a little bit of life? Like, it was never great, but it showed a little bit of life. And then all of a sudden they go to Kansas City and they decide, you know what, we're going to put Shaq Mason back in the lineup. You remember that? You remember how crazy that was? And we honestly thought that Cole Popovich, the days of that silliness were over, and there was some accountability. Cam Robinson, you're a vet. Sit down. We're going to let Ariante Ursary learn on the job, and we're going to go with him. We're going to put our best 5 out there. We're going to figure it out. Laken Tomlinson, you're playing bad. We might rotate early on, but then we're going to bench you. We thought that was done. They not only told that Shaq Mason decision to hold their beer, they gave it a whole fucking keg. That was what did they see to where they said we need more Laken Tomlinson? Like all this talk about these rookies, Jalen Knoll and Higgins, they might be forced to play them now because Nico Collins is hurt. But Jalen Knoll doesn't get to play early, but at the end of the quarter with the 2-minute drill going, you put him in there and he makes a play and sets up a field goal to make it a 1-possession game. And then at the end of the game, you're going to Jalen Knoll. Why is that not a normal thing? I don't want to be smarter than the coaches that I cover. I really don't. But I feel like I am. I really do. I really do feel like I am. Do I think that I can put together a defense or an offensive system? No, hell no. But I honestly think DeMeco Ryans and Nick Caserio and Nick Caley, I honestly think that on this plane ride, I don't think they should sleep a minute. And I don't think they should watch old school tape. I think they should actually play Madden because they need to simulate like that. That's the ultimate simulator of game management. They just need to play some Madden. This is pathetic. This is pathetic. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. I thought Nick Caley would have some sort of grasp of Seattle. He definitely didn't. He definitely didn't. Let's go to the chat. A lot of people wanting to talk.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
Matt Marr out in St. Louis says, fire everyone, trade everyone except Will Anderson Jr., Knoll, Sting, and Marks. You want to trade Nico and CJ and the whole line? Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know what their plan is. I don't know if they're going to be buyers at the deadline. I don't know what their mindset is at this point. Not John says at least the Mariners lost. Would you rather the Dodgers win the World Series than the Mariners? That's the question. Were you going to root for the Mariners if they got there? Lawson Pyle says Caserio saw what we had in CJ and Will Anderson Jr. in their rookie seasons and drove it into the ground thinking he's the smartest in the room. Man, this wasn't a great day. If it hadn't been for the strip sack of Will Anderson, this wasn't a great day for the Will Anderson trade up to that point. Unfortunately, he made that play. Did Danielle Hunter play today? I'm not sure. I know they're not allowed to make plays in the same game, but I think Danielle played, right? I saw the inactives. I didn't see Danielle Hunter in there. But yeah, I mean, you look at the Texans traded the 12th, the 33rd in that draft, and then the first rounder the next year. Two of the guys who were possibilities at 12, one of them ended up going 12. They went ham today. Jahmyr Gibbs and JSM. And then you throw in like a couple more players. But Will Anderson, that was a big play. I mean, that was perhaps the play of the year that Will Anderson made. Ryan Matthew says, 1, I'm tired of these character guys getting run over real talent. 2, Caserio has to be close to the hot seat on how he's managed this O-line talent. I don't know if Caserio's on the hot seat because I think him and DeMeco are kind of the same. I think they kind of have the same mindset. That's just me, though. Tate Rodriguez, shout out to you.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
Chase, what an incompetent staff, reverting back to Laken Tomlinson, Dare, refusing to let Knoll return punts. That was weird. That was one of the weirdest things. Most undisciplined team in the league. They've been undisciplined since DeMeco's been here. That's a kind of an underrated flaw that they've had. If you think penalties are a discipline thing. Now, I think DeMeco kind of separates the effort and the boneheadedness of penalties. He kind of separated it when I asked him about it. But yeah, DeMeco Sala will find a way to blame the defense. I'm out on him too. Yeah, the DeMeco situation is an interesting one. Need All That says we could leave 9 to block and still somehow let CJ get sacked. This blocking is horrible. It's the same story new year. We have another decade to go on with a bad O-line. My God, another decade. Jeez. I don't think it's just the line. I think the line is not put in good position. Like Nick Caley did not do what he should do, what any competent OC should do. He did not coach as if he was trying to counter a weak offensive line. That was not the way he did it. Orlovsky, I thought, was going to lose his mind today. 21 Savage says everybody mad like this was unexpected. I've been watching this ish for over a year now. Yep, it does look similar to last year. Kyle Nance says back to the worst performing offense in history. This is one of the worst offenses I've ever seen. Need all that says fire Caserio and put DeMeco on the hot seat. I don't know what it would take for that, but when you make a change like they did and it looks the exact same, where do you look? MHW Nation, I hate to say it, but I'd rather have the offense of last year than what we have right now. At least that offense was watchable.
Damn it, Bobby.
Bobby Slowick, legend growing. AJH says DeMeco's a DC, reset the whole coaching staff. My goodness, DeMeco's getting fired. Evan says core axioms. I don't think that they're following those for Nick Caley. Orhan Yankin says, why doesn't CJ run, man? Use his legs, not 60 mil QB. Yeah, he is very inconsistent when it comes to running. There was a play today where it looked like he had a lot of ground in front of him, and he threw it to Chubb. I still think Chubb, if he puts two hands out there, can maybe catch it, but it was almost like CJ was scared to run. It's just very inconsistent with how much he uses his legs. I think Orlovsky, who was all over it, kind of said as much, that CJ was leaving lanes out there. Nomad Scott, defensive player of the game, Dennison Autry. Offensive player of the game, Will Anderson. I mean, I get what you're saying, but I do want to give credit to Dalton Schultz. I do think Dalton Schultz, who would have thought after what we saw last year, Dalton Schultz would be the one that showed the most dog out there today. He was actually really, really good. This was maybe his best game as a Texan. It was one of them. Zach Rose says, at least Bobby got us to playoff seasons back-to-back. Caley is trash. Not good for Nick Caley. Nomad again says, can someone with media credentials please ask if we're allowed to worry about the offense yet, since they previously told us we weren't allowed to? Oh, Nick Caley's going to get asked a lot this week, I'm sure. H-Town 94, fire these POS Patriot clowns, Caserio and Caley. Cut the cancer from this franchise. One effing year of this entire team's existence. We had hope. SMH. You added the SMH. I feel that. Devin says, if we don't address this damn OL, I'm done with this team disgrace. Look, they gotta coach around this offensive line. Like, teams are doing this. Teams are having good offenses despite, like, the Chargers are down to their 7th, 8th, 9th tackles, and they're still running an offense that functions. Like, they've got to quit being so dependent on the offensive line just blocking the guys in front of them. Yeah, you got to do that sometimes, but they got to be able to play around that. CJ Stroud's got to throw catchable balls. Nick Caley's got to run quick game. You got to have some sort of feel, up tempo, whatever. This is just a lineup and block the guy in front of you, and there's no creativity to it. It's the same thing as Bobby Slowick. So yeah, you would like to have better offensive line, but even with a good offensive line, this offense is going to be flawed with the way that it functions. Stone Alone 5 times says, I'm effing pissed. I don't think you're alone based on what's going on here. In the Almighty says, Njigba better than our whole team. Yeah, he's good. He's good. I said he was better than Nico Collins this week, and it was a somewhat controversial. I mean, I don't think anyone's disputing that. And by the way, we'll see what happens with Nico Collins too. Matt Marr says this roster led by David Coley and his staff probably win. You might be right. Honestly. Eric Solis says Barrios was out there playing in flip-flops. He tripped and fell on that one punt return. I mean, the one thing that Braxton Berrios did was recover that fumble in the end zone, and that was it. Outside of that, he did nothing. Zach Rose said CJ trade request next year guaranteed. Good for him. You know, I mean, I like CJ fine, but I don't think he's completely free of fault here. I don't think he's completely free of fault. There's a lot of uncatchable balls being thrown by CJ Stroud where there's not even he ran into a safety, by the way. He got bailed out on that. He ran into a safety. There's a couple times where he looks extraordinary. One of his best plays, Nico Collins dropped the ball. But you know, I thought there were times where Deshaun Watson was perhaps a victim of organizational incompetence. I don't think CJ Stroud's free from that. I really don't. I think that a really, really good quarterback plays better. I'll put it this way. They're not 2-4 with 2018, 2017, 2019, 2020 Deshaun Watson. They're not. So while I don't think the surroundings are ideal, I don't think he's playing good either. Stone alone 5 times. Sick of this team. CJ forcing the ball to Nico instead of spreading the ball around. I don't know what their plan is as far as the offense. It's weird. So they decided to sign a receiver/trade and draft 2 when they had Xavier Hutchinson. Now all of a sudden Xavier Hutchinson is the main guy they go to. It's very Bill O'Brien like with rookies with Nick Caley. Indy Almighty says the better the defense does, the more pathetic we look as a team because we can't score. It's awful. Yeah. It's definitely not great. It's definitely not great. Let's hear from CJ Stroud. But before we do, special sponsor today, and I've actually been rocking these. I'll be honest. When I first heard about these, I was like, okay, well, I kind of value my feet. I really, really value my feet. So are we sure that I want to endorse something that goes on my feet? But I'll be damned. These are some of the most comfortable boots that I've ever had. These are I wore them all around Vegas. I'm laughing because I just can't believe how comfortable they were. My Brunt work boots right here. Little slip-on slide. I've been wearing these instead of sneakers lately, and they slide on smooth. A lot of times when you put on boots, they don't slide on as smoothly, but these do. And I walked a total of 20 miles in a couple of days, and my feet felt great. Brunt workwear. And right now, if you go to bruntworkwear.com, you can get 10% off at Brunt. Just use the promo code LOCKER. We've actually had a few listeners take advantage of these. They got many types of the work boots. I got the slips, but the workwear brands, they don't cut corners. You work too hard, you got to be comfortable. Or if you're just someone like me that just likes to rock some boots that are insanely comfortable that you can walk around in, you should do that. And for a limited time, listeners get 10% off at Brunt when you use the code LOCKER at checkout. Just head to bruntworkwear.com, use the promo code LOCKER. You're good to go. And after you order, they'll ask you where you heard about Brunt. Do us a favor. Tell them you heard about it right here. 100%. I value my feet, and I am going to be a customer of Brunt for a long time. Slip-ons are my style. A lot of the people who work outside, they're going with the laces. So shout out to Brunt Workwear for everything that they do and for looking out for the feet. Let's hear from CJ Stroud. Are you mad at CJ Stroud? Do you think CJ Stroud is a victim of bad circumstances? This seems to be kind of a polarizing topic. Let's hear how he handled this. DeMeco Ryans, execute, all that. Threw Fairbairn under the bus. Let's hear what CJ had to say. Man, he's got the same look as DeMeco. Let's hear what he had to say.
Okay. Yeah, he gave me the short. I guess, what are your thoughts on how the offense played and why it was tough to get points early on?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things. I think first I got to, point to myself and missing a couple throws.
you just gotta I gotta work through the pressure. You know, bring some blitzes. Gotta just do some things. You know, to run some different schemes. I think it will help, but I just think we just didn't catch a rhythm. They did a good job of just keeping the shell, and then some of those started shorts and you know plays like that. We got to execute, but I think it starts with me, and I got to do a better job of distributing the ball better. And you know, when I have good pockets, you know, working them and making sure I'm getting the ball out on time and to the right guy. So I look inward, and then you know, there's some other things we'll watch film and get better at.
Titus mentioned that he felt like the offense was kind of complacent to start and couldn't repeat up energy. Do you kind of agree with that statement? And if so, why do you guys kind of agree with that statement?
I don't know what he meant by complacent, but I think the type of offense we're running is like, you know, like I told y'all, death by 1,000 cuts, and sometimes when you live by that sport, it's hard because you know you're not taking a bunch of deep downfield shots, but you're asked to be, you know, really good on first, second down, time and time again, and something that we just got to get better at. It's still new to a lot of us, but yeah, I definitely think, you know, we can be better at that, and that'll definitely help.
You know, as you all are kind of getting closer, the drive before the one you all scored, what do you feel like, you know, stopped you all there?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. We got down there pretty good. Our defense kept us in it the whole game. We got to help those guys out and score some points somehow, some way. I tried to throw it over the guy. He made a hell of a play, jumping and knocking it down. They zoned a lot of stuff off, so I was trying to just make plays. You know, it's hard to throw over guys in the red zone. So, you know, it wasn't easy down there, but we got to find some type of way to score some points, however it looks. So.
Time for a few more, y'all. If DeMeco can't play, like, what do you all have to do to pick that up?
I thought he'd play really well. I got to just find a way to get him to touch the ball. Like, I got to throw him a better ball. That's just bottom line. Yeah, it's gonna be tough. You know, he's our best player on offense. You know, he's one of the best players in the league, time and time again. We also got to find ways to get him the ball, you know, in better situations. So that starts with me, you know, trying to get us in the right looks. But yeah, it would suck, but hopefully, you know, he'll be okay. And you know, we have a short week, but if not, we got to just step up in other ways and you know, put more, you know, on my plate, hopefully, to try to, you know, help us out.
How valuable is communication on just the plays where they're kind of setting those disguises to disguise the blitz, but there was especially a few times in the second half, guys were coming at you. How important and how imperative is communication in those situations which everyone's on the same page and guys can't pick up some of those free rushers?
We were in a lot of situations where, you know, they really didn't show, you know, zero blitz on film on second and long when you're kind of backed up. So that one kind of just caught us off guard. But when it's loud, it's hard to, you know, sometimes get the protections right. And you got to just sometimes throw hot. Sometimes you can pick it up. So it's a little bit in between. But it's something definitely we got to look at and get better at because, you know, we've gotten it a couple weeks in a row. So, yeah, I think if we can do that, we can, you know, hit some bigger plays.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you, guys.
All right, there you go. That's CJ Stroud. It does feel like the fan base is kind of turning on CJ just a little bit. I'll be honest. I just don't think that CJ Stroud is immune to this criticism. I mean, he just said himself he's got to throw some catchable balls. There's a lot of these balls that just aren't even catchable. And I'm sorry. I don't think Nick Caley did his thing tonight, and I don't think he's really done his thing outside of the last 5 quarters. But I mean, it's a little bit crazy. Like I almost wanted to see at the end of the game, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm just being honest. I watch this. I wanted to see what it looked like with Davis Mills. I just wanted to see what it looked like. When CJ went to the sidelines, I just wanted to see what it looked like. Chances are it looks the same, and it looks absolutely horrible. But I just wanted to get a visual of perhaps what it looked like. Do I think that Davis Mills should start over CJ Stroud? I don't. But in this situation, I just wanted to see what it looked like. Desperation, tempo, all that. I just wanted to look at it. Just want to look at it. Thought it was kind of a lost cause. The game got a little bit interesting there at the end. But it's really easy to blame Nick Caley, and I think that I think he deserves a lot of blame. But to let 45 seconds go off the clock after the run, it just seems like whether it's the quarterback, whether it's the OC, whatever it is, there's got to be like some sort of communication. And the penalties have been a problem with DeMeco ever since he's been here. Like that Azeez Al-Shire, you look at this game, like we're looking at this game. It's an 8-point game somehow, some way. Azeez gets a penalty that leads to a touchdown on the very next play. That's a 4-point swing right there. You have then maybe an opportunity to kick a field goal instead of having to try to score. So there's just a number of things that the Texans do that are just insane. It's not just one thing or the other. It's a rotation of things. And there's no method to the madness when it comes to Nick Caley. There's no method to the madness. Some weeks there's a QB sneak, other weeks there's not. Some weeks sometimes they want to run the ball, sometimes they want to throw. Like this is the second time. I don't think this is the second time that the Texans on first down, they run the ball. It's a real strong run to the 1-yard line. And then they decide they want to throw a few times. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Then they decide, and Dan Orlovsky and Louis Riddick are sitting there saying, dude, they're not going to run the ball here. They decide to run it. Not only did they decide to run it, they decide to run it behind a guy who got benched the last 2 weeks. Laken Tomlinson got benched. And they run the ball behind him twice. And of all the times to use Nick Chubb, maybe the short yardage would be it. What else is he on the team for? They run the ball twice with Woody Marks, and I like Woody Marks. But they run the ball twice with Woody Marks. It doesn't make a lot of sense. It just really doesn't make a lot of sense. Let's go back to the chat here on the late night post-game show. SNL, by the way, tomorrow, or today, I should say, 9:00. So we're 7.5 hours away from that. Collective, it looks like it might move to 4 with myself, Stoots, Sean Pendergast, and Reggie. Stay tuned there. It'll be 4 or 6.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
Branson Thomas says, which head coach getting fired do you want for OC? Look, I don't trust DeMeco. I don't trust DeMeco to be able to put together a good offensive team at this point. I have trust issues with it. I don't know that it matters who the OC is. I really don't. Like, I think all of the concerns that people have about a defensive minded coach, I think it's time to acknowledge that maybe that's an issue with DeMeco that you're going to have to deal with, because this looks the exact same. Like the Bobby Slowick, they said bye to Bobby. This looks the exact same. So why would I trust them to hire an OC? They failed twice. Like, we're sitting here talking about, and I'm not sitting here saying, I mean, I don't know that DeMeco's going anywhere. So, you know, you're obviously going to have to bring in an OC, but I don't have an answer for this. I always want Josh McCown. I always want Josh McCown. That's always going to be my answer to this. But I mean, I also just don't know if DeMeco Ryans is capable of overseeing a football team on both ends. This is one-dimensional. This is one-dimensional. And these are the same type of discussions like in different areas that they used to have with, I mean, rest in peace, pour one out, Mike Leach. Like Mike Leach for a long time, and the defense sucks. It's just offense. That's what DeMeco is right now. So I don't know. They tried DeMeco's favorite system, and then they tried Casario's favorite system. They went from the Kubiak to now they're doing the Patriot shit. I don't know. I really don't know. So I would always say Josh McCown, but I mean, how many different systems are they going to try to run? Are they just going to play ping pong? Are they going to play paper, rock, scissors to decide the next one? I really don't know. Stone alone 5 times. I'm packing for my Bahamas trip and go to sleep like this. I need a drink. Damn, congrats on the Bahamas trip. I know you work your ass off, Stone alone, so enjoy that. Very jealous of that.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
Nathan Palmer says Chris Palmer, George Godsey, Pep Hamilton, Tim Kelly would have done a better job play calling than what we saw today. This was the worst offensive display in franchise history. There's not a second close second. Like, I know we'll look at Bill O'Brien, the Watt Cat. There've been some bad. This was the worst when you factor in personnel and you factor in how much time Nick Caley had to make these decisions and how obvious some of the foolishness is. And just listen to the broadcast. This was the worst offensive display in franchise history. And it was put on by Nick Caley coming off of a bye week. There is zero doubt about that. Zenister says, bro, so pissed seeing Kubiak with the Seahawks when I literally begged the Texans to grab him, but nah. We always get the New England chills like Caley. I think DeMeco probably would have liked it too. I think it was just probably a compromise between he and Nick. Nick took the step back with Bobby, and then they did what they did. I actually thought Kubiak kind of screwed up too with the Cooper Kupp reverse pass. That was kind of a screw up by him too. ESG Soccer says Caley out, Casario out, anyone Pats related out. Just let DeMeco pick the GM and figure it out. Clutch City fan 199 can't win when we don't have a running game. When you get a 4-TO game, that should be a win. Let's go, Jay. Screw the Dodgers. Kyle says, why do the Texans allow more free rushers than anyone else in the league? Never seen so many free rushers ever like the Texans the last 2 years. There's got to be some sort of hot read there. Like this isn't the only team in the league. Like there's not that the incompetence. It looks the exact same. That's why when you're asking about who to hire as the OC and all that's why I just get like I'm to the point where I just think you're going to be a flawed offense no matter what with DeMeco. I think it's a fair concern to have. Zach says 15 days for that, not having fun, fire Caley. So you want Caley out of here. I don't think you're alone. I mean, this has been pretty bad.
Nick.
Texans can't beat a good team. They can't beat a competent team. They have no identity. They have no sense. And it's not just the play calling, it's the personnel. Todd the Show says Casario wants to be Patriot so bad, but forgets he doesn't have Tom Brady. CJ can't understand plays quick enough from the OC and doesn't check plays like we were told he could this season. Yeah, I don't see a lot of checks at the line of scrimmage. I don't really see a lot. Now, CJ said, hopefully I get more on my plate. Okay. I'm rooting for you, buddy. Zach says, at this point, I'm open to Josh McCown for OC. I think Gerard would be more of the same. Go Texans, win, lose, or draw. Yeah, you know I'm always going to pick Josh McCown. It's always going to be my guy. King V10 says, love Chubb on screens and not running. Yeah, I don't know what to say about that. Arnold Torres, 11, GM, OC, OL coach, O-line itself, decision-making on who is on the field, all the mishaps and lost within 8. And DeMeco, no O. That's for sure. No O. Got to call him DeMeco. Includes the defense in his speech of why Houston terrible all around. It's unwatchable. Somehow it was a close game. Nathan Palmer, if this offense continues, I'm going to start praying for Mike McDaniel to get fired so he could come over as OC. No, man, I don't know how high Mike McDaniel's stock is right now. Better podium energy. He hates this system, though. LOL. Talking about CJ. D Castillo 617. Don't forget we couldn't score inches from the touchdown 5 plays in a row. I call better plays mad, and front office is just accountable as coach. Yeah, they never try to QB sneak it. They run the ball there, and then they decide. It's crazy what this offense looks like. I thought Dan Orlovsky was about to completely lose it. Let's get some positives here. Texans turf. Shout out to Texans turf greatness that is. My man Dan the man. He has set me up very nicely. I shopped around. I was discouraged, but you know what? I found Dan. He didn't just try to recommend the most expensive thing. He didn't put some outrageous limit on my yard, which is not massive. And he took care of me. And between the drainage, between the customization, he took care of me. And I was very discouraged until I became a customer of Dan and then became a partner of Dan with myself and SNL. Shout out to TexansTurf.com for doing what they do. Always green, always clean, putting greens, play areas, all that. Eliminate the insects, the mud. Your kids will love it. Your dog will love it. You'll love it. And your yard will look fantastic. Shout out to the greatness that is Texans Turf and Dan the man. And in the spirit of that, we have this week's Kings of the Turf presented by Texans Turf here in the postgame show. We have 4 today. It was kind of hard, but I wanted to give some credit where credit was due. We already did that with TDECU, but I kind of expanded the 2 partners, TDECU and Texans Turf. And we have a first-time, 2-time winner who you'll hear from in a sec. But Turf King number 1 is Dalton Schultz. Dalton Schultz played his ass off today. There's a lot of talk about Dalton Schultz body language. A lot of people get upset about Dalton Schultz and the body language. The body language was there today. If everybody had brought it like Dalton Schultz, this post-game show and this vibe and the sluggishness that's going to go on with a lot of people staying up past their bedtime, it might feel a little bit better. Dalton Schultz, got to give him credit. He played his ass off. He's Turf King number 1. Turf King number 2, and he was also where credit is due in the first half. Jalen Knoll, I don't know how he doesn't just throw his helmet at Nick Caley on the sidelines for the BS that he's pulling. By the way, Frank Ross isn't free either. What a dumbass decision to have Braxton Berrios back there instead of Jalen Knoll. What an absolute dumbass decision. Frank Ross, he gets a free pass. What an absolute dumbass decision, if it is his decision, to put Braxton Berrios back at punt returner and not let Jalen Knoll try to make a play. You have a limited offense, and you have a guy back there who just catches the ball, and there's not much more to it. Matter of fact, he tripped and fell on his face today at the end of the game when a return would have been massive when the Texans were trying to make it an interesting game. What an absolute joke. But you know what? Jalen Knoll hung in there. He made a few plays. He made the 2 biggest catches of the game despite the limitations. 4 catches, 77 yards. I got a sense we're probably going to see a little bit more from him, and we damn sure better. But what an absolute disgrace that this guy doesn't play more. And what an absolute disgrace that it takes Nico Collins getting hurt or desperate times, call for desperate measures for him to get out there and play some offense. And what an even bigger disgrace. Damn, this is supposed to be positive. What an even bigger disgrace that Braxton Berrios kicks him off the field on special teams. Props to Jalen Knoll for hanging in there. You are a stronger man than I, because I would throw my helmet at either Frank Ross or Nick Caley if I had to sit there and watch what he had to watch. Turf King 3, Will Anderson. Will Anderson, it looked like it was going to be a quiet game, but Will Anderson did his thing. That was a really, really nice job by Will Anderson. Damn near could have been the biggest play of the year. Defense just continued to make big plays. Offense continued to wet the bed. Will Anderson, Turf King number 3. And Turf King number 4, DeMeco Autry. DeMeco Autry, active. He had the one sequence where he forced Sam Darnold to throw it away on 3rd down. Then on 4th down, he blocked the field goal. So DeMeco Autry, Turf King 4. We know they love him. The love paid off today as he was active. That's the Kings of the Turf presented by Texans Turf here on the postgame show. Let's go back to the chat here on the late night. Shout out to all the late night or early morning, however you want to look at it, folk. As the Texans fall to the Seahawks 27-19. Really, never really in doubt for Seattle.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
Zach Rose says Aziz for sure got to lay off the smelling salts. What a terrible penalty that was. Was not great. Did not look good. MH Wheat Nation, the Bucks Lions game was more watchable than this. Yeah, not even close. Were you surprised? Daniel says firing Caley doesn't seem as simple as it sounds. Who will call plays after? Do they implement a new scheme? Use Caley's scheme with different play caller? It'd probably be Gerard Johnson in like the interim, and then they'd figure it out. But I don't think they're going to do it. I don't think Casario would want it. I don't know how you tolerate what went down today and justify it. Shout out to Kareem. Common Sense 200 says urinating tree compared Caley to Matt Canada. My goodness, that's not great. It's not something you want to be compared to. Z-Tag Fun says a Seahawks fan told everyone our defense is insane. Yeah, the defense is good. There's no doubt about that. I mean, JSN kind of had his way, but the defense is solid. We all know that. How many wasted contracts? Mixon, 2 offensive tackles. Others. I don't know if Mixon's wasted. I just think that he's hurt. Cole Oliver says 1 offensive scheme still leaves CJ in bad positions over and over. I wouldn't disagree. 2, CJ creates issues by trying to extend plays. Would agree with that. 3, Caley knew Seattle D-line was elite and still called continuous long development plays. That's crazy. That stretch play at the end of the game where you took off the 40 seconds was just insane. I'm everything you say is factually correct. And I think anyone with half a brain and a pair of eyes would agree with everything you said. There's no doubt about that. So I would not disagree with that at all. I don't think the problem is that Nick Caley's a first-year play caller, though. I see someone in the chat says I don't think that's the problem. I think that's kind of I don't agree with that analysis at all. I think they just hired the wrong guy. Everyone's been a first-time play caller at some point. Tampa Bay's had 3 straight first-year play callers. I just think they hired the wrong guy. I think it's apparent, and it's more New Englandy than Rams. But the first-time play caller thing, I don't care about that. I actually support the Josh McCowns of the world and all that. It's just they hired the wrong one. So I don't think it's guys who've called plays before that you bring in. Chip Kelly sucks right now with the Raiders. He's terrible. He might be doing as bad a job as Caley does. So I don't think it's as simple as that. I think it's just the system and the way that it goes. So that's just kind of where we go. Let's go through the big moments of the game here on the Locker Room Postgame Show. It is late. SNL going to be at 9:00. Shout out to Texans Turf, TDECU for sponsoring and the greatness of Brunt work boots. The workwear, I'm telling you, my feet feel good. Feeling real good about that. BruntWorkwear.com. Use promo code Locker. You'll get $10 off. And of course, Sleeper. All right. So drive 1. I thought this was interesting. Texans started off pretty good. You had the stop early on, but then CJ Stroud actually kind of got bailed out because it should have been a safety. If that would have happened to the Texans, I think my whole timeline would have been flooded with people questioning the call. I thought CJ Stroud ran into a safety there. And I think that's kind of it's just a bad combination of the O-line and CJ sometimes just with the good comes the bad, but CJ Stroud runs into what should have been a safety, but it doesn't get called. But Seattle on the very next drive, they answer. A guy that we talked about in the draft, a guy that we talked about as a potential Texan tight end target, Elijah Arroyo out of Frisco, Texas to the University of Miami. Large dose of Arroyo capped off with a Charbonnet touchdown. And by the way, he looked pretty damn good today for someone who is a clear, supposed to be like a clear drop off from Walker. But Arroyo, 27 yards on Derek Stingley. We're not used to Derek Stingley tripping and falling. He trips and falls. A lot of Texans tripping and falling. Who was in charge of the cleats today? But you had that. Then you had Arroyo on Alshire, the touchdown. Seattle takes a 7-0 lead after the near disaster by the Texans. Then the weirdest thing of the night, and I can't believe that this happened, we start to realize that the rotating guards are back. They decided after Juice Scruggs started the last two games and we did not see Laken Tomlinson, they decided, hey, let's go back to the rotating guards. You know, Laken Tomlinson, that guy who Seahawks fans were hoping started, but they were told that that was a thing of the past and they were almost disappointed by it. Let's give the Seahawks fans what they want and let's let them see Laken Tomlinson. You saw him and it was more of the same and more of what we saw. I don't know what the point of that is. I don't understand what that accomplishes. I think it's incredible that that was even a thing. I could not fathom that that was a thing, but it was. And Seattle Seahawks fans got their wish, and they were very pleased about it. Then more boneheaded football, kind of a theme with DeMeco Ryans. A lot of penalties with DeMeco Ryans, even from his guys and the leader of the team. Sam Darnold runs out of bounds well short of the sticks. Azeez Al-Shire decides he's going to slam him to the ground. And I'm sure Azeez and some Texans folk will say, well, it's just kind of a reputation thing. No, that was an obvious penalty. I mean, it was unnecessary. You didn't even need to finish the tackle. He was running. He was running out of bounds. And on the very next play, JSN scores the touchdown, and that's the end of that. Then JSN decides to dunk the ball on the goalpost. He decides he's going to dunk the ball on the goalpost, and that's a 15-yard penalty. So then DeMeco Ryans decides he's going to take the penalty on the kickoff, on the field goal, the extra point, instead of the kickoff. Now, I know that the rules are different, but I would still take the penalty on the kickoff to where the kicker has to kick it further in the landing zone. I don't understand why DeMeco decided to take it on the extra point instead of the kickoff. I don't understand that. Maybe someone else does. I don't understand that. So I thought that was the first dumb decision that DeMeco made today. Why wouldn't he take it on the kickoff? Maybe someone can explain it to me. I saw someone try to. I don't think they did a really good job at it, but I think it's worth at least just moving the kicker back to where he has to figure something out. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's some new strategy. I'm not really used to this. So maybe I'm missing something. Then the Texans' third drive, this was a big moment. Nico Collins with a huge drop. And it was arguably the best play that CJ Stroud made today. He avoided the pressure. He throws it to Nico. Nico would have had a hell of a lot of room in front of him. But instead, Nico Collins drops the ball. And quite frankly, let's be honest, Nico Collins hadn't been that good this year. He's been all right. He hadn't been that good this year. Like, I don't think that – I think I saw the other day that teams that are in last place – Nico Collins in fantasy, Nico Collins is one of the most common players on there. And I don't even think it's all his fault. I think he should be the focal point of the offense. I think they should be getting it to him early and often. I think they should be throwing it to him quick to counter the offensive line. I think he should be getting the ball a little bit more. But, I mean, you're talking about a guy who fumbled the ball against the Jags and basically fumbled away the game. He had this drop, and now it looks like, because it's part of what happens with Nico. It looks like Nico could perhaps be missing some time, which is what has happened every single year. The difference, like JSN has never missed a game. Like we were having the discussion about JSN versus Nico. I think just ability wise, I think JSN's better at this point. Nico's good, But JSN's never missed a game. Nico's never gone a season without missing multiple games. Sometimes more than multiple by a large margin. But you had the huge drop by Nico there, which eliminated an elite CJ Stroud effort. Then you kind of feel like the Texans, they need to stop the bleeding, and I'll be damned, they do. The Texans, they hold the Seahawks to a nice 3-and-out. They stop the bleeding. They force the punt. And then it becomes apparent that the stupidity of this coaching staff has no limitations. Not only did they decide that they wanted Laken Tomlinson back out there rotating at guard after winning 2 straight games, they decided that they wanted to take Jalen Knoll off the field on punt return. So Braxton Berrios, who's not even active, you decide that you're going to take Jalen Knoll off the field. And it's not like you're doing it to play him more on offense. Braxton Berrios is actually playing more than Knoll on offense. They take Jalen Knoll off the field on punt return. This was fascinating. And you early on, you see Braxton Berrios. He fair catches it. He let it the play before where CJ Stroud damn near avoided a safety. Braxton Berrios, so the drive before, Braxton Berrios fair catches, it goes over his head. Later on in the game, we'd see Braxton Berrios fall on his face. When Michael Dixon of the Seahawks, the former Longhorn, was punting from his own end zone, Braxton Berrios catches the ball and falls on his face. Jalen Knoll has looked like one of the more explosive players on this team. His punt returns have been exciting. I think he's top 10 in the league. And because Christian Kirk gets hurt, now Braxton Berrios is punt returning? Why? If that's the case, why is Braxton Berrios inactive? Jalen Knoll has potential to be one of the better punt returners in the league. He actually has potential to be the best receiver, one of the number 2 receiver on this team. For some reason, they don't want to use him as much. I don't get it. Feel like I'm repeating myself like Mike Jones when I say it. I don't get it. Braxton Berrios early on was playing more than him. But why in the F is Jalen Knoll taken off the field for punt return? That makes absolutely no sense. And then the Texans catch another break at the goal line. And this is where it gets kind of weird. And you're like, dang, they're down 14. If they can get to the locker room down 14, that would be a hell of an accomplishment. CJ Stroud throws the ball backwards, gets his arm hit. The Seahawks defender picks it up. It gets ripped out, and then Berrios recovers it in the end zone for a touchback. Absolute break. Probably the best play Braxton Berrios will make all season long. They might give him a lifetime contract for recovering that fumble, honestly. But he recovers it. And the Texans, they keep it at 14-0. Then, when it looks like Seattle is going to get the 3-possession lead, which would have been borderline impossible to overcome, Kubiak gets cute, and he decides to throw the ball with Cooper Kupp, who throws it to Kalen Bullock, who gets his first interception of the season. And it gives the Texans a pulse. They have a pulse. Again, at this point, I'm just thinking, get to the locker room at 14-0. You should be thrilled by that. But the Texans actually make it kind of interesting. Dalton Schultz, 22-yarder, the big play. You had Nico Collins for 14. Woody Marks for 13. So you had a few explosives there. And then CJ Stroud looks like he's about to make a play with his legs, but he decides to throw it sideways to Nick Chubb. And Nick Chubb just kind of reaches for it with one hand, and it falls to the turf. And then on the very next play, bad news bears. CJ Stroud trips over Jake Andrews' foot, falls down. Texans end up settling for a field goal 14-3, which is great. 14-3, with the way the Texans have played, they could easily be down 4 touchdowns. 14-3. But then it gets even better for him. DeMeco Autry active for the first time. He forces a throwaway on 3rd down, then blocks a field goal on 4th. Texans with a chance. Jalen Knoll You can't return punts. You can't even play that much with Braxton Berrios. But you know what? When we need an emergency play, we're going to go to you. And his 28-yard catch sets up a 46-yard Fairbairn field goal. Now, this play was also made despite the fact that Daria Gumbawale, who's back to getting offensive reps, that was another big adjustment that Nick Caley made this offseason. Daria Gumbawale misses his block. And CJ Stroud, nice play by him. He avoids it, hits Jalen Knoll, perfect, sets up the field goal, 14-6 Texans, and beyond fortunate to be down 14-6 at half. Beyond fortunate. Actually incredible that the Texans were able to be down just 14-6 at half. And then you got to wonder, what's Nick Caley cooking? What's Nick Caley cooking? This is going to be his drive.
Nick.
Oh, CJ Stroud throws an interception. CJ Stroud throws an interception. Not a good one. Nico Collins across the middle. I don't know if it's miscommunication, what, the footwork Dan Orlovsky kept alluding to, but he throws an interception. But the defense holds, keeps it 17-6, still a two-possession game. Shout out to the defense continuing to do what they do. Then it gets a little bit stagnant, and Will Anderson makes what could have been the play of the season. All this talk about these guys who could have gone at number 12 overall, one of the picks that you traded for Will Anderson, Jahmyr Gibbs going ham in the first Monday night game, and then JSN doing his thing. Will Anderson makes the play of the game to make it 17-12. You know they aren't going to get the 2-point conversion, so it stays 17-12. And then Seattle, on their ninth drive, they extend the lead to 8. Defense holds up again with a 46-yard field goal, and it is still a 8-point game. And then this is where you get perhaps one of the worst displays that you will ever see. The Texans' ninth drive. This is in the third quarter, by the way. This is a one-possession game. Schultz moves the chains like an absolute savage. And then Nick Caley decides on 3rd and 1, he's going to run behind a guy who got benched 2 weeks ago, Laken Tomlinson. Just go type in Laken Tomlinson and see what Seahawks fans, Jets fans, and everyone says. Hell, just watch with your eyes. You saw him play a few weeks ago. But Nick Caley runs behind him on consecutive plays. It was so bad that you literally had the broadcast team saying, you cannot run the ball again. You can't run the ball again. You can't do it. You can't do it. You can't do it. He did it twice. I thought Dan Orlovsky was about to blow a blood vessel. He did it. And then Seattle, they finally score. Jackson Smith and Jigba, he gets them to the 2, a big catch, and then pass interference on Kamari Lassiter. Charbonnet with his second touchdown to make it 27-12. And the ESPN broadcast just absolutely disgusted with Nick Caley. Just disgusted with Nick Caley. Everything from you can't leave your tackles on their own to you got to run some up tempo to why are you running the ball in that situation to where's the QB sneak. I guess the QB sneak's just kind of like a week to week thing. It's not like a consistent thing. Kind of frustrating for me. I'm kind of a big fan of the QB sneak. I get a little bit more excited about QB sneaks than I probably should. But the ESPN broadcast just absolutely disgusted with Nick Caley. Then you have a scary situation. Nico Collins, he gets hurt. He goes into the locker room. And it seems like all is lost. Everything's gone. But then MJ Stewart, who we said, MJ Stewart, one of the guys who got credit where it was due, presented by TDECU, the greatness that is TDECU, TDECU.org/Texans. If you want to get that Texans debit card, MJ Stewart strips the ball, gives the offense life again. But the offense fails again. Despite MJ Stewart doing what he does, you have another failed goal line attempt by Nick Caley. 4th and goal from the 1. This was after Noel made another big play to the 5. Probably should play more. I think he was probably out there because Nico was hurt. But 4th and goal from the 1, 2 incompletions, a false start, and then an uncatchable ball from Stroud, which happens relatively often. And the Texans down 15, but Seattle continuing to throw. That was an interesting decision by Seattle continuing to throw. Texans actually burned 2 timeouts, and they forced the punt. And this was interesting. I was wondering, well, are they going to put Jalen Noel in there since it's an opportunity where if you make a play, it's a close game. Like you have a chance if you score here. Well, they left Berrios back there because why not? And Berrios trips and falls on the return, flat on his face. However, the Texans do end up scoring Woody Marks, but it happens with 2 minutes and 4 seconds left. Now, you might be asking, why did it happen with 2 minutes and 4 seconds left? I'm glad you asked. So they get to the 5-yard line, about 3 minutes left. They decide they want to run a stretch play. Broadcast team continues to just be completely disgusted. 45 seconds ticks off of the clock. Then you have an incomplete pass. Then you have the throw to Marks. They score with 2:04. At that point, everyone is tweeting. Everyone is saying on the broadcast, you got to kick the ball out of bounds or you got to kick the ball out of the end zone. Well, they don't, which allows the 2-minute warning to hit. And that ends up costing the Texans. They have a chance to get the ball maybe with 30 seconds left. It'd be interesting to know whether they're going to leave Berrios back there or maybe put Noel back there when they actually needed a play. But we will never know because Tim Settle ends it with a penalty by jumping on the pile. Kind of an appropriate way to end this one. And the Texans end up losing, which brings us to the question, where do the Texans go from here? Before we answer that question, before we address it, let's go back to the chat here on the Locker Room Postgame Show. 2:00, 7 hours away from the start of SNL. But hey, it's just one of those nights.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
Derek says the Texans do not deserve traveling Texans. That's another way of Derek saying the Texans do not deserve me. Shout out to Derek. Kyle Nance says maybe it's our players, not the OC. Is Stroud him? I think it's a combination of everything. I think there's problems with everything. I think it's a bad combination. It's a bad mix. I think it's a one-dimensional squad. I think it's defensive minded. I think there's some issues. It's not great. Kyle Two-Piece says, has DeMeco lost faith in his team? They play for him, but his face the whole game screamed, I can't believe this performance our guys put out. I mean, he's got to be wondering stuff about offense. He's got to be like, man, I fired Bobby and we got even worse. I just don't know how DeMeco Ryan signs off on, or maybe it's his idea, rotating Lake and Tomlinson, not playing Jalen Noel more. We've been begging for this Jalen Noel thing all year. Like it's eventually it's going to be too late. But I don't know how he signs off on this stuff. That's what's confusing to me. I don't know how he signs off on some of these things. You don't want Jalen Noel to return punts? What? Because Christian Kirk got hurt? Why would that even impact it? I don't understand. Like, what did they think about Braxton? I'm going to ask Frank Ross about this. It makes no sense. Sean Gregg says, why was Stingley not shadowing JSN the entire game? Seems like Lassiter was clearly outmatched. I don't know. I don't think this was the best performance from Stingley either. There was one play that the one touchdown looked like maybe Petrie could have used his instincts and read that a little better. He was looking at the other guy. I'm sure there's probably a good film breakdown, but at that point, your instincts got to take over, and you got to be there. But Stingley didn't have his best game. Lassiter didn't either. But he did hang in there. I mean, the defense did hang in there, despite that. ESG Soccer says, ask Casario about the Pats nepotism. Caley, Popovich, Ben McDaniels, Casario, all frauds together in New England. Disgusting behavior. DeMeco needs an OL guru. I don't know when Nick Casario is going to speak next. It's going to be draft time. But, I mean, we asked about the Patriot system. But, yeah, Nick Casario doesn't speak a lot. So, yeah, I don't really know. I don't know what to think. I will just say this was as bad of a coaching job as we will ever see. There will not be too many worse than this. Like this is going to be one that you point to, and it's not second guessing. I know that a lot of times, like DeMeco will say, well, if it works, no, man. Like he even admitted that they wanted to kick the ball out of bounds. Like his guys are getting penalties. The personnel stuff is just incredibly crazy. Like you will not see a lot of worse displays in coaching than the one we saw today. I did not fathom that the stuff we saw today was even a remote possibility for this team. I did not fathom that. I had zero thought that this could even possibly be a thing. And there it was. Just ridiculous. So where do they go from here? You got 3 straight home games. And at this point, 5-5 was what would give you a puncher's chance for the season. 5-5 was what we said. Right now, they're 2-4. So they got to go 3-1 in the next 4 to have even a puncher's chance. You got San Francisco coming to town. They're probably as banged up as the Baltimore Ravens. I don't know if they fall into the category of good team. Their record is what it is, but they're not very good. They're without a large chunk of their best players, an overwhelming majority of their best players. Denver, I don't know if they're going to – the way that they won that game against the Giants, it could be a turning point for their season, and they could be the good side of what a lot of people thought they were. And then you got Jacksonville, who – they're better than the Texans right now. They got a lot of flaws. They're easy targets. They're better than what the Texans are right now in a lot of areas. So that's where you go from here. But Nick Caley, that was as bad as it gets. I don't know what the consequences are. I don't know how you even defend it, quite frankly. I've never heard a broadcast crew roast somebody as bad as Nick Caley was getting roasted. And right now the Texans are 0-4 against good teams, 2-0 against very bad teams. And I don't look at the quarterback as a complete victim of surroundings. I don't think they're great surroundings. I don't know that he helps them too much at this point. It's a bad marriage. It's just a bad overall marriage right now. I don't know how you fix it. I mean, can you really, in good faith, negotiate like the CJ Stroud contract? Where are you starting at this point with what we're seeing? I don't know where you're starting. It's bad all the way around. And I'm just being honest with you. I wanted to see the last 9 minutes just felt like a lost cause. I just wanted to see what Davis Mills would have looked like, just so I could get some sort of grasp. Because a lot of these balls that CJ is throwing aren't even catchable. And these are ones that he's getting off cleanly. I mean, I still think there's a lean with the ESPN guys. Like, even when they're talking about things, there's kind of a lean to where, and Orlovsky on one play, he said, you go to Jaden Higgins. CJ threw it up, a jump ball to Hutchinson. Higgins was right there. Orlovsky kept saying it was the wrong read. But there's still kind of a lean towards they don't want to be too critical of the Mulligetta clients. I know Dan Orlovsky changed his whole scouting report on Justin Fields. He nailed it. And then he got called out, and all of a sudden Justin Fields was the greatest quarterback ever. He nailed it initially, but then he completely changed it because he got bullied into it. But I don't want CJ's not the problem. I'll like, if we're going to power rank problems, he's not the problem. But I don't know that he's the solution either right now at this point. I don't think he's playing very well. It's and I don't know. I don't know how that changes. I mean, we should have had a situation where he started the game running into a safety. Like, think about that. He ran into a safety. 15-yard loss, ran into a safety. Then he threw a ball backwards. Like, think about how different we look at this game if that stuff doesn't go the Texans' way. He started out the game. He should have ran for a safety, and he should have thrown a backwards pass that led to a Seattle touchdown, but fortunately the Texans were able to get the ball in the end zone. Fortunately for them, that 9 points doesn't happen, and you end up having a puncher's chance at the end of the game. Then you have the interception to start the second half. I don't know who you put that one on. Could have easily been another interception. Like, this is not like we've seen this before. Like, let's open our eyes. Like, I know the mindset is, first of all, like, I think a lot of times when you look at the quarterback as a victim, sometimes I don't think it's fair. Because there are ways to make stuff better. David Carr was going to suck no matter what. He was going to suck no matter what. But like, Deshaun Watson was a victim of a bad offensive line and bad receivers, play calling surroundings at times. Deshaun Watson wins this game tonight. Like, let's be serious. Let's just go back. Let's forget about all the extra stuff that happened. Like, you guys all lived it. 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. Like, what's this team's record with Deshaun Watson? 4-2? 5-1? I mean, it didn't take him too long. Like, I keep hearing, well, there's not chemistry, there's not all this. The balls aren't catchable, man. There was a couple of plays. Like, Jalen Noel got deep one time, wasn't catchable. Higgins up the sideline, I think it was the play after Nico Collins got hurt. Higgins ran a perfect route. He was wide open. Ball wasn't even catchable. There's got to be some sort of hot read. Like, is Nick Caley that dumb? He might be. But we see CJ Stroud make too many good plays for him to make these bad plays that he's making. And this is a league-wide thing. Like, we blame the offensive line. Again, I repeat. The Chargers are down to their 7th and 8th tackles. They're talking about Austin Deculus like they really miss him, because that's how far down they went when it came to the tackles. I know they got beat by Indianapolis. The offense at least looked like it had a pulse. Charlie Heck's playing freaking good for Tampa Bay. So I don't know if this is a coaching thing, quarterback thing, whatever, but it's not just the offensive line. They got to be able to coach around it. Blue Boy 9 says, Landry, you tripping. Everything you just said Watson lacked at times is the same damn thing that's going on right now. No, it's not. When was Deshaun 2-4? 2020? When stuff fell apart and they traded DeAndre Hopkins? They didn't trade Nico Collins. He was still statistically one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I'm not tripping on shit. That's reality. Deshaun did his thing. Deshaun has Julian Davenport as a starting left tackle, 111 games. Ain't no tripping on that. I didn't see Deshaun Watson throwing a lot of uncatchable balls. There's nothing tripping about it. This is not like they're not in the same category. Let's be serious. Like if you're saying CJ and Deshaun we're in the same category as when Deshaun was here, then you're crazy, man. Like I don't know what you're watching. If you think these guys are in the same category, I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, I know it's the low-hanging fruit. I know it's gone downhill for him since he left here. I mean, they're not close. Deshaun was a top 5 quarterback in the league. Let's just be honest. Let's be sincere about this. Let's be fair. I was always fair to Deshaun. I was critical on the back end before anything happened off the field. I thought there was a little bit of change in the way that he was moving. But let's be fair about that. They're not in the same stratosphere. Let's be serious. Like that, we got to accept that. I'm not sitting here saying the surroundings are great, but come on. Be fair to yourself, Blue Boy. You ain't got to be riding that hard on CJ. Ride and die with the quarterback. I'm rooting for him too. But Deshaun Watson's 4-2, 5-1 with this team. He's 4-2, 5-1 with this team. That goes for 2017, 18, 19, 20. Any year he played, he's at worst 4-2 with this team. At worst, 4-2. Zero doubt. You can't accept that, then good for you. Hopefully you get that TDECU debit card and you can buy every CJ Stroud jersey and get 15% off. TDECU.org/Texans. Get you 15% off. You should get every jersey. If you believe that. Rob Dog 123 on the chat.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
I'd like to see CJ wear a Mariners hat now. Come on. Being serious. I think even CJ would admit that Deshaun was at a higher level. Clutch City YT. We have failed CJ. Yeah, I'm not disagreeing, but I mean, it's not. There's still ways around it. Like he's not controlling what he can control. He's not playing great. Kyle Nance says Philly drafted Hurts in the second in spite of Wentz. Maybe we should do the same. Oh, you want to draft a quarterback? God, which one? Which one? Paul Seward says Deshaun is a better athlete than CJ Stroud, but hey, man, his offensive linemen were better. Were they? You sure about that? He had Nick Martin at center. He had Julian. They both had Tunsil. He had Titus. CJ has Titus. I mean, it was pretty similar. Wasn't very good O-line. Wasn't very good, to say the least. But that's where we are. I didn't mean to break out a Deshaun Watson debate in the chat. Been through enough of that. Didn't mean to do that. Oh, okay. So there you go. Texans fall to Seattle 27-19. SNL with Cody Stoots, 9:00. I got a feeling he's going to have a lot to say. We'll see how it goes. Seems like people are kind of turning on DeMeco and CJ. The honeymoon phase is for sure over. I don't know where they go from here. I mean, when you fire an OC, it's really hard to get rid of one this quickly. But that's just kind of where they're at. Appreciate y'all for rolling through. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to like. Be sure to ride along. Be sure to remember, whether the Texans win, lose, whatever. When it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together. Appreciate y'all for rolling through.